But he went to his mother and said, "Mother, I would wish to chop down a tree." "You," said his mother, "I am tending to the oldest boy, and he is the best boy. I'll give you an axe." But the axe that she gave him was made out of iron, and it was rusty and as blunt as butter. And she gave him a bottle of milk. But the milk that she gave him was old and hard and blue and green and yellow and brown. And the cake that she made for him, she took an egg and she broke it and dropped it into the middle of all of the fire. She took the flour and stirred it in with the ashes and all of the twigs. And the sugar and the milk were all placed inside of the fire, and she said, "There is your cake." The boy took a shovel and scooped out that terrible cake that was burnt on the outside and raw in the middle and filled with ashes and burnt twigs. And when it had cooled, he placed it by his side, and he strapped the bottle of milk, and he had the old rusty axe over his shoulder, and along he walked along the road. And who did he meet but the little grey man, no bigger than this, with hair that hung over his shoulders, a long thin beard upon his chin. And he looked and he said, "Hello, have you got something to eat and to drink?" And the youngest boy said, "Yes and no." "Yes and no," said the old man. "Either you do or you don't." The boy looked at the poor provisions that he had, the bottle of solidified milk, the burnt cake, and said, "Well, all I have is this milk, and it is old and mouldy, and all I have is this cake, and it is burnt. Would you give me some?" The boy said, "Yes, of course." But when he handed over that cake to the little grey man, as soon as the little grey man touched it, all of the burnt fell away from the outside, and the cake got bigger and looked sweeter and better than any cake that the boy had ever seen in all of his life. And the little grey man took the cake, and with one mouthful, he ate half of it and gave the rest to the boy. And the boy said that it was very sweet upon his tongue. When the little grey man was given the bottle of hard, old, mouldy milk, as soon as he touched it, it turned into the sweetest, clearest wine you have ever seen. And the little man, with one great gulp, drank half of it and gave the rest to the boy. The little grey man looked at the boy and said, "Now you helped me, I shall help you. For the tree that you must chop down is that one there." And he pointed to a great old oak tree. "And at the bottom of that tree you shall find something that will keep you happy for the rest of your life." The boy thought that the little grey man had given him some good advice, and he went straight to that great old oak tree, and he raised his old rusty axe high in the air, and with his first cut he chopped a third of the way into the very trunk of the tree. He was quite surprised. He didn't realise that that great and old axe would be so sharp. And with the second, he'd cut halfway through the tree, and with his third, the tree fell down with a great and a terrible crash. And as the boy looked at the bottom of the tree to see what it was that would keep him happy for the rest of his life, he looked and he saw that there were two eyes, no bigger than your thumbnail, but they were made out of gold. And the two eyes were in a head that was covered with feathers, and the feathers were made out of gold. And the head had a beak that was made out of gold, and a neck. And from underneath that tree up popped a goose's head, and it looked this way and that, and the boy reached down and pulled it up and placed it underneath his arm. Now the thing is, with a goose, it would go this way and that and make its honk, 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 honking kind of noise. And the boy thought that this would be a great thing, that he could return to his own home and give it to his mother. And when he tried to walk and turn around on the road, the golden goose made him walk a different way, and he had to walk along that way. But He thought that this would be a great adventure to travel along the road, and everybody who saw him with a goose underneath his arm would smile and some would laugh. But the boy walked on, and the boy never said a word. And on he walked. But by now he was getting tired, and he came to where there was an inn, a great inn, and outside of that inn there was a man, and the man was rubbing at his belly, and he saw the golden goose and thought to himself that just one feather would make a great prize for him indeed. He looked at the boy. He had a smile on his lips. "You boy, I think that you look tired. You need to come inside of my house and rest. And I will look after the golden goose, for the golden goose makes a great noise. And you can stay inside of my house and you can have some rest, and I will look after the golden goose. Thank you very much." The boy was tired, and he thought that this would be a good bargain, that he would not have to look after the goose, which would look this way and that and honk and make its noises. And up the stairs he went, but no sooner had he laid his head down than he fell asleep, and that man who rubbed at his belly reached towards the golden goose with his long thin fingers and grabbed hold of a feather, and he tried to pull a golden feather from off its back, and when he pulled, his fingers were stuck. "Stupid goose, I seem to be stuck to it. I know what I'll do." And he put two hands upon it, one to brace the other, and he pulled and he pulled and he pulled, and now his two hands were caught on top of the feathers of the golden goose. And he shouted for his wife, "Wife! Wife!" And his wife woke up. "What's the matter with you? You're always screaming and crying. Come here." And now she wrapped her arms around his great belly. So there was the goose, and the man attached, and the wife holding on to her husband, and she pulled, and she was stuck to her husband. So now there was a goose, the father, and the mother. And they shouted for the daughter. "Daughter!" The daughter needed to be called not once, not twice, but 3 times.